staying
And then
behind my
Sarah, obviously, Sarah's got her background in motocross, but then she's been doing this Defender series with the trucks, so she's comfortable with that.
Sarah's a badass behind the wheel, and I just, it's not a dig at you, Sarah, but I've seen you on a mountain bike, and I'm not going to put you on the mountain bike. That's not happening.
All right, listen. I like the fact that we're breaking it to her indirectly. We're not to her face.
Right. Yeah.
Watch the podcast, and you'll figure it out. Why.
Yeah, right.
All right. It's Dave Dyer, and welcome to episode 23 of Tight 10 with Dave Dyer, and we've got a great one today. Tight 10 is my podcast where I have interesting people on, people that I find interesting, that I want you to find interesting. We ask them 10 questions, and it gets you to know these people, and maybe you'll look into what they do, and maybe you'll be a follower of theirs. So, my guest on episode 23 of Tight 10 with Dave Dyer is a professional motorcycle racer who hails from southern Utah by way of Riverside, California. He's raced in the Dakar Rally, the Abu Dhabi Desert Challenge, the South African Safari Rally, the BP Ultimate Rally Raid in Portugal, and the Vegas to Reno Race. He also has the best mustache in the motorcycle world, but I can't say he for sure has the best mustache in the hot air balloon world, and we'll get to that. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest, Skyler Howes. Hi, Skyler. How are you?
How's it going?
Good. I'm thrilled to have you on. Again, thanks for taking some time. As I said before we started recording, I've just been blitzing people that I want to talk to, and you were kind enough to say, yes, let's do this. First of all, I want to say before we start questions, congratulations. You recently got married. Am I right?
Yep, I'm a freshly married man. We've been together almost 6 years and finally tied the knot. So
there you go. My wife and I just celebrated 33 years, so there's quite a road ahead of you. So.
Yeah, nice.
And then also, just quick before, this is not a question, but you've got this fantastic mustache that you've had for years. What was the origin or the reason for growing the mustache?
My grandpa raced down in Mexico in a race car called the Baja Boot, which was made famous because Steve McQueen drove it, and he owned one of the cars. Anyways, my grandpa always had a big old giant mustache, and he was known as the Frito Bandito. And yeah, if you're a little bit old school, then you kind of know what the Frito Bandito is. Yep. But I grew it out every time I was down there racing in Mexico, and I just kept it. I raced the Dakar the next year, and it's when I got the podium, and I think I got more TV time because of my mustache than I did the podium. So I kind of figured, I think I'm stuck with it forever now.
You're stuck with it. You know what that is? Here's the thing I call that. That's the Dorothy Hamill taboo. I don't know if you know who Dorothy Hamill was. She was an ice skater when I was a kid, and she had this little pixie haircut. And I think she cut it short, and everyone was disappointed, and she was kind of stuck with that pixie haircut for the rest of her life.
Yeah, so, that's kind of how I am with the mustache.
All right, here we go. 10 questions, Skyler. Some of them are a little silly. A lot more of them are more in depth in regards to what you do for a living. And so here we go. Number one, you have, over the course of your professional racing career, raced for both Husqvarna and Honda. So here's the hypothetical situation. My first question is always a this or that question. If someone comes to you tomorrow and they say, we want you to race in a desert race, you have your choice of either a Husqvarna or a Honda. Now, you don't race for either of them anymore, and I'm not asking you to crap on either brand, but based on your experience between those two, which bike do you pick and why?
The long version is I went damn near undefeated one year and followed that up with a Dakar podium and on the Husqvarna.
Okay.
And then I went to the Honda and I didn't finish better than fourth place.
Okay.
So
all right. There we
I'm
have
just
it.
gonna leave it at that. You can interpret that however you want.
All right. There we go. Okay, you've been riding professionally since 2012. I know that you said you started doing the rally racing in 2018. Go back to 2012 and over your entire professional racing career, give me one thing you like better about the way it was when you started and one thing you like better about the way racing goes now.
Oh, man, I think when I first started, things were a little bit more, I guess, like more people, especially in the USA. There was a lot less racing series, so then there was more people at the races, which meant bigger. Like, when I grew up, racing was the National Hare and Hound, so you could have 300 or 400 people out there racing, all starting at the same time, going across the desert. And now you're lucky to get like 100 out there. So I would say, yeah, back when I first started racing and being a professional racer, that would probably be what I like most about that, is kind of how I get important like the national series were and how big they were, the big names, the factory support in there. I will say probably what I like more about things now is the competition level. Even though there's less people at the race, the level of competition is much higher now. So you get hard fought wins. Maybe back in the day I had a lot of wins, but it was because I went to, races that might have had, the competition wasn't so stiff and I went out there and I won by 10 minutes. Now it's more, the level of competition is super high. And so you're getting really hard fought, like, satisfaction wins.
Do you think it's been structured like that on purpose? Do you think it's maybe been filtered in a certain way so that it really only sort of the cream of the crop really gets to race?
Well, in Dakar, yes, for sure. Like in Dakar, you have a selection process, but just in like USA racing and off-road and desert, what I've been doing, I think now you have your national series and you have your your premier series and stuff. But the reason why we're getting much less entries and less people is because there's so many. So now there's 17 different races happening on any given weekend. So you have everyone that's getting to choose between all this one instead of two, and everyone goes to just those two. So I think now it's structured that there are many more people out there racing. So you have to have selection processes to get into the premier stuff. But overall in the off-road thing, I think there's just so many races happening at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Question number 3. If I'm not mistaken, looking into my research, you have competed in the Dakar Rally 7 times. Is that right?
8 times now, yeah.
8 times. Okay. Now, for those who don't know, I know some of the listeners who might be listening and aren't aware that the Dakar Rally is what many people consider the most grueling endurance motorsport race in the world. It happens currently in Saudi Arabia. It originally started as truly a race from Paris to Dakar in Senegal, and then it was in South America for a while, and now it's in Saudi Arabia. To get yourself prepped for a race like that, I'm assuming you've got to obviously be tremendously physically fit. You have to be comfortable with your bike. There's the navigation aspect. For those who don't know, there's a road book that is now digital, I think, but you're basically flying through the desert, also simultaneously looking at a map to see where you have to go. And then there's mechanical skills involved, because I think there's at least 1 or 2 nights where you guys are out there by yourselves with no support team. So if there's something broken on your bike, you're fixing it. So here's the question. Of all the things that it takes and all the different aspects it takes to compete in that race, which one of those things are you personally, not against others, but personally best at? And what thing are you weakest at? And what do you do to work on the weakest part?
So it's tough because there is no off season as a rally racer. So if you're racing the Dakar and you're also racing the entire world championship, every race, like we're gone for a month for the Dakar Rally. It's a 2-week long race, but we're usually there for a week or 2 before the race as well to acclimate. And then every other race on top of that is, at minimum 1 week long, and then we go a week before that. So even though we only have 5 races out of the year for the world championship, we're still gone, 6 months out of the year just for those races. And that's not including the test time with the team, development of the bike, all of that. So, and that happens when we have off season, which is during the summer months. So then we go out to Southern California and ride in the middle of July and August in Barstow when it's 110, 115 degrees out there, and we're just, smashing out laps around a test track. So as far as training goes, we get a lot of physical fitness just by the events and the training that we do for preparation. And then for the Dakar on top of that, we do obviously our road book and navigation training. And to touch on that a little bit, the navigation is basically like, if you remember MapQuest before, Google Maps and stuff on your smartphone existed, that's basically what we have. Is we have directions printed out on a piece of paper, and we have to read that while racing through the desert. So so that is extremely important. So your physical fitness has to be top, because you got to ride for, race for 6 hours, and you're on the bike for 12 hours. And then, if you are the physically fittest and you've trained the most and you're the most comfortable person on the bike, and you are the fastest person out there, you could be the fastest person going in the wrong direction if you don't know how to navigate. So navigation, I would say, is probably like 60% of the entire thing. So we're training for that. And it's kind of funny to say, but like as an endurance athlete, someone who has their hands on the handlebars and we can't physically eat or drink that much. You look at a lot of the top rally athletes in the world, they're kind of chubby. I'm a little bit chubby, so is Ricky, so is Toby Price and Ross Brandt. There's a couple of guys out there that are really fit. They rely a lot on what they eat, and the chubby dudes, we can burn off some of our storage.
Chubby by design.
Yeah, we call it the rally bod. So
love it.
So
I've been sporting the rally bod for years, for God's sakes.
Right
there, you go.
Yeah, it's funny to say that we're professional athletes, and then people will see us with our shirt off and be like, "Are you sure?"
It's supposed to be like this, ma'am. Relax.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
So
good.
Yeah, but the training is super important, and I've been going off on a pretty big tangent and stuff here.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, so between all of that training, there is no off season. That's super important. The navigation training is probably the most important, and I would say I like to say that that's my strong suit, is navigation. There's been a lot of times where I've been able to figure things out when people didn't, or get it right when people didn't, but there also has been times where I got it really wrong. I could sit here and tell you that, one of my strong suits is navigation, and then, next race I could go out there and just totally blow it and, lose 20 minutes because we got lost.
Wrong way Feldman, right?
Yeah, totally. So, yeah.
What about the mechanical aspect? What about, at what point do they sit you down and say, okay, we're going through this bike wheel to wheel, you're going to figure out every single bolt, everything that it does, so that when on those 2 days when you're out there, if you got to fix something, you got to know what to do?
So I'll backpedal a little bit. Mechanicking is definitely my strongest suit. If that's included in like a rally racer total package, me as a mechanic is definitely my strongest suit, and I would consider myself probably one of the better ones out of all the riders. Just because of my background as a privateer coming up, it was my responsibility to build and prep bikes. And then now that's just what I enjoy doing. So as a factory racer, I've been able to get project bikes, old, vintage bikes, and rebuild them and build them into cool stuff. And so that's kind of what I do in my free time. I enjoy doing it. So in this last Dakar, I had a tire failure. And you have to do some kind of MacGyver stuff to try and get that tire to survive for the rest of the next stage. Cause when you're doing these marathon stages, you are out there alone. And it's pretty common to have some type of random little issue. Hopefully you have the tools or the parts to fix it, but likely you don't, which means that you have to get creative on how to survive and make it to the finish. So then the mechanic can take it over and, repair it properly.
Nice. Okay, and I just want to, if anybody's listening, if they wonder what a privateer is, and please jump in if I'm getting this wrong, but basically in these races, you have people who race for factory teams, Honda, Husqvarna, things like that, and those folks are supplied all sorts of stuff, but then you have a lot of people who are doing it purely on their own. They're paying for it, and those people they're not out there for just one night fixing their bike. They're fixed the whole race. They've got to fix everything, and they're on their own, right?
It's halfway true. So you can be a privateer and still have a mechanic. They have teams that you can pay for to have a mechanic.
That's right. Okay, I've seen that.
Yeah, what you're talking about is the Malimoto class, or the original by Motul class, and that's a specific amateur category that is made for like back in the day, when the Dakar first started, the service teams couldn't get to the bivouac area in time. And so as a rider, you were kind of required to do most of the service on the bike on your own and then sleep in a tent. And so they've created this category that now, since we're such princesses and we sleep in campers and the bivouacs are so easy to get to and all the service people can get there before we do, they've created this other class to where you're self-supported. No, only
Gotcha.
other competitors are allowed to work on your bike. No mechanic. You have to sleep in a tent. And those are privateers doing that. Those are people that are paying their own. So they're paying, thousands and thousands of dollars to go and do that.
Sleep in a tent.
Yeah. But like when I first started doing rally, I was a privateer and it cost me $100,000 to pay all the services, the bike rental, the mechanic rental, all that stuff, to go and race the race in hopes that I could have a good enough result that like led me to a factory run.
Get it noticed. Don, the guys doing the category you just talked about, did they get to use the bathroom, the porta-johns, or anything? Or they?
Yeah. They can take a shower and they got the food and all that stuff. So yeah. They still got it easier than they did back in the day.
Gotcha. Good. So they're surviving. All right. Question number 4. If I'm not mistaken, you're 34 years old, right?
Correct.
Okay. So I know I'm doing some research. You've had some injuries. You've had some things that you've had to come back from, but you're still a young man. You're still going to bounce back pretty good. Now, when you look at what you do for a living and you look around at the field of racers that you know and that you've raced against, is there a point or an age where you start to see some of these people, men or women, kind of go, well, that guy's not as sharp as he was, or maybe the vision goes a little bit, and maybe you start thinking about, I might be going from 2 wheels to 4 wheels. Do you see a point where that starts to happen with a lot of people?
Right about 30 in the rally world, right about 35. So if you're talking 2-wheel sports and like motocross and stuff, if you're over 30, you're an old guy. But in rally, we got some of the top racers that are 40 years old, like Ross Branch, Lorenzo Santolino. A lot of the guys that just retired were like in their late 30s, almost 40 years old. So to be honest, like you're still pretty sharp. And there's like Ross just got a podium a couple of years ago. So did I. And, Ross is I think 38 at the time he got his podium. So like in rally, it's a little bit different. And to be honest, I look at like how I started and how like other younger riders are riding now. It gets like you get a more experience and you get to be a better rounded like rally racer as you get older. So I would say actually kind of like 35, you're at this teetering zone. You're kind of at the sweet spot and at the peak, but you're also at the peak. And the only way to go from there is down. So
pretty short peak.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Gotcha. 35, 36, you're washed up. You're done. Get out of here.
That's it. Get out of there.
Get in the car. All right, question number 5. In doing some research, I see one of your hobbies is hot air ballooning. Now, your first thought is, boy, I bet that's a beautiful view. And then the overwhelming second thought is, what an easy way to die. So tell me your most hair-raising near-death experience with hot air ballooning, if you've had one.
It's funny. It's kind of like an oxymoron. Like extreme ballooning, you're floating around in a giant bubble. Like it's the most peaceful, chill, like least dangerous form of flying of all time. But like we do some things that would be considered extreme ballooning just because you can't see where you're like going. You can't control which direction you go. That's up to the wind.
Right.
So, we've been into some situations where we're flying in canyons and like, people fly out over the ocean or over big, giant, huge lakes and they have to land on barges and like crazy stuff like this. I would say probably the most, there's 2 instances that were probably really gnarly. One of them was we landed, you can take off super, super early in the morning. And it's called like a dawn patrol. So you launch before the sun comes up. And the wind picked up and we had a really high winds landing in an orchard at night. It was really gnarly, but it was all good. Like everything turned out totally fine. The next one would have been another high winds landing. And we took like probably a foot, a chunk out of the ground when we hit. Because when you land that fast, when you're going that fast in a balloon, there's no wheels. You can't just like roll it out.
Right. You're skidding.
Yeah, and the best thing to do is come in hot, hit the ground, and hopefully deflate as you hit the ground so you don't just skid forever. And depending on how hard you hit and how fast you're going, you can it's sketchy. Sometimes it can get sketchy, but
So you mentioned extreme hot air ballooning. Is that an actual category? Is that something you do?
No, I think that's just kind of like an inside joke, maybe.
The description. Got it. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. Well, I hope we don't read about you skidding through an orchard anytime soon.
I mean, that's totally fine as long as, I'm still in the basket.
Did you hit any trees? Because I grew up in we had an apple orchard growing up, so I know how dense everything can be. Did you hit a tree coming down?
No, it was kind of best case scenario. Like, it literally worked out best. We were down a row of trees. It all worked out good. We didn't damage any crops or the balloon or anything, but it was just like dark trees going by. Like, it was scary. Yeah.
I can imagine it'd be pretty hairy. All right. Question number 6. This is kind of a silly question. I always throw a question in like this during the interview. You're flipping channels. Forget the fact that streaming exists. You're flipping channels, and the movies Drive, Beyond the Pines, and Blade Runner 2049, the Ryan Gosling trifecta, are on. Which one of those movies do you watch and why?
I'm a big fan of like the kind of sci-fi stuff, so I do like Blade Runner and that kind of stuff, but Blade Runner is just a slow burner, It's not a lot of like heavy hitting action in there.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to choose Drive just because it's so badass,
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm a big sci-fi guy. I like that kind of stuff, so I'm leaning towards Blade, but it's just a slow burner.
It is. The original Blade Runner, phenomenal movie. Absolutely. It was so kind of groundbreaking the way it was done and the story and everything like that. The second one, I like it. I love the way it looks, but you're sitting there a lot of the time going, for gosh sakes, hit the gas. Just get there. Wherever he's going, just move it. Put it in a higher gear. Let's go.
Exactly.
So, yeah. All right. We're on the same page. All right. Here we go. Question number 7. As I mentioned at the top of the interview, I know you recently got married. How does your wonderful wife deal with the fact that most of the things you do to make money could possibly kill you? How does she do that?
Honestly, the toughest part of when we first started dating, she comes from like military background and she's never been around bikes or anything like that in her whole life. So her idea of danger before we left or before we met was like, going on a scary vacation or something. It wasn't so crazy. So she had no idea. In fact, I kind of throw her under the bus a little bit. When we first started dating, I was quizzing her on what kind of dirt bikes there were and the names of them. And I asked her what the red dirt bike was, and she said, a Toyota. And it's...
Could be.
Yeah.
You never know.
Right. So
they make forklifts. They might as well make motorcycles.
Yeah, right. So, I joke around that she didn't really know. She didn't understand. And then the first race she ever went to was Vegas to Reno, and I crashed and got a concussion. And so it was a little bit of a wake-up call of like, okay, this is pretty dangerous. But part of like the biggest issue, the biggest hurdle we had to get over is when I was going to Morocco and Kazakhstan, Russia, like all these crazy places to go racing, she kind of thought it was like a vacation for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I love what I'm doing, and this is a really cool opportunity, but I'm not going there to like sightsee and be a tourist.
Yeah.
I'm racing. Like this, my job is. So other than that, she's like totally, she's totally chill. I tried to delete my foot a couple of years ago, and she's like, taking care of me. She's like, I know she gets it. She's kind of like my mom in the instance of like, this is my dream and my passion, and it's also what pays our bills too. And so she's not gonna like, she never ever once, she's never got after me for riding or what the dangers might be or anything like that. Like, this is what I do. This is what I've always done even before I met her. So she knows that it's kind of like it's not even a conversation to have. It's like what I do,
I like the fact that you bring up that she kind of thought that when you were gone, it was sort of a vacation. Now, listen, I don't want to put myself on the same danger levels. I don't fly through the desert. I have a Suzuki DR650. That's my bike.
Yes.
But when I would travel, earlier in our marriage, when I would travel and we had 2 little kids, I'd travel and go out of town to do a gig. My wife would be like, well, you're just having fun. Well, the shows are fun, but I'm also bringing money home. I'm helping pay the bills. So,
right.
You're right. I'm only up there for an hour and I get paid, but, and then she's home with 2 screaming kids. So that was a little tough to navigate, but we made it through. So,
yeah.
Okay, here we go. Question number 8. I always put together a little fun scenario for question number 8. Here it is. I'm going to give you 3 names. Ricky Brabeck, Sarah Price, Travis Pastrana. Now, here's the scenario. You're competing in a race that involves 3 legs. The first leg is a mountain biking race. Let me say this. You have to have a teammate for each leg. Each leg incorporates you and another person. The first leg is a mountain bike race to where you're going to where the motorcycles are. And then you're getting on motorcycles and you're doing a desert race across a section of motorcycle. Once you get to the landing there, you're getting in a trophy truck and you're racing back to where you came from with the motorcycle. So 3 legs: mountain biking, desert motorcycle, trophy truck. The 3 people I asked you, or told you, Ricky Brabeck, Sarah Price, and Travis Pastrana, give me who's going to be in each of those legs with you. And
am I included?
You are included. It's you
There's
and this other person.
There's got to be 4 legs.
Well, you're in every leg. This is your race. You're in every leg, and you're picking a partner for each of these legs.
Word. Okay.
Mountain biking, desert motorcycles, trophy truck.
Yikes. I'm probably going to choose TP for the mountain bike, Ricky for the desert, and Sarah in the truck.
Okay.
That's tough. Man, that is tough. Because TP's good in all of it. But
that's the thing. He is a freak, isn't he?
Yeah.
There's people like him, not only on dirt but on road, where you put him in any motorized vehicle and they just figure it out.
Yeah.
And Travis Pastrana is that guy. So, ironically, you picked the vehicle without the motor for him.
Yeah, it's funny, but I'm gonna say Ricky mountain bikes a bunch, but he's always doing it on an e-bike. So if we're doing an analog regular pedal bike, it's probably gonna go to TP. I don't know. Ricky cycles every day. This is tough. But I'm going to say Ricky's probably the fastest through the desert. You put Ricky and TP against each other in the desert, Ricky's probably coming out on top. So, yeah, you got to, staying behind.
And then Sarah, obviously, Sarah's got her background in motocross, but then she's been doing this Defender series with the trucks. So she's comfortable with that.
Sarah's a badass behind the wheel. And I just, not a dig at you, Sarah, but I've seen you on a mountain bike, and I'm not going to put you on the mountain bike. That's not happening.
All right, listen. I like the fact that we're breaking it to her indirectly. We're not to her face.
Right. Yeah.
Watch the podcast, and you'll figure it out.
Yeah, right.
All right, there you go. So you got Travis Pastrana on the mountain bike. You got Ricky on the motorbike, and you got Sarah in the trophy truck. There we go. And I'm sure you're going to win it. So, okay. Question number 9. This is the proverbial interview question for everybody, like you're interviewing for a job. Where does Skyler Howes see himself in 5 years? What do you think you're going to be doing 5 years from now?
Oh, man, I don't even know what I'm going to have for breakfast tomorrow. What am I doing for 5 years? In 5 years? I see myself driving a square body Chevy with my camper on it out to some cool spot in the mountains to go mountain bike with my wife and my dog. That's what I see myself doing.
There you go.
5 years. Yeah, maybe as a career, I don't know, hopefully racing 4 wheels. Got some cool opportunities to race in 4 wheels. Maybe that's an option. Maybe still racing bikes. The possibilities are endless.
What kind of dog?
I got a Labrador. He's a red lab.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
I've got a Border Collie Australian Shepherd mix who's 9 years old and hasn't slowed down a bit.
Yeah, still full cracked out, huh?
Ready to go. I have a friend who's a vet, and I asked her, I said, he's Border and Aussie. What age is this guy going to settle down? She goes, 9 or 10. So
yeah,
that's probably when it's going to happen. Okay, last question. Here we go. I ask everybody this question for the final question. Favorite way to celebrate a win, either professionally or personally? You have a great race, something great happens personally in your life. What's your favorite way to celebrate a win?
To have a nice, to not have a nice big old giant breakfast, some French toast, eggs, big old giant breakfast to celebrate. I'm not much of a party guy. I don't like the club. I don't like going out. I'm not a big fan of drinking, none of that stuff. But I am a really big fan of food. I love eating. I love breakfast. That's probably going to be my number one. If I'm going to celebrate and do anything, I'm going to go have a nice big old meal with my friends.
Do you have a favorite place out where you live that you like to go to breakfast? Is there a favorite spot?
My wife crushes it. My favorite spot is my
at home.
Oh yeah,
there you
she
go.
Crushes it. She makes everything fresh. Oh, it's so good.
Nice. We have a restaurant here in Grand Rapids that we go to quite often for breakfast called Wolfgang's. And they have a ton of great breakfasts, but they have this Eggs Benedict thing where they put corned beef hash, but it's like the old corned beef hash from the can.
Ooh,
so like the salt level for the rest of the day is off the charts.
Yeah.
But it's phenomenal. So, yep, I love a good breakfast too.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Skyler, that's it. That's our 10 questions. I can't thank you enough for doing this. If anybody wants to find out who Skyler Howes is, and you should because he has an incredibly interesting life and a career, you can find him on the socials at Skyler Howes 110. That's SkylerHowes 110. Find out what he does. Also, I wanted to mention, I recently saw your videos and your stuff about the XR 500 that you put together. Wow. What a great bike. Here's my problem. I'm 5'6". I'd probably need a mini tramp to get on that thing.
No, you'd fit that thing great. You'd be surprised. Why don't you
What's
come
the
on
seat
out
height on it?
Right. It's perfect. Whatever you are, it's right. It's made for you.
Perfect. I'd love to come ride it. So, all right, Skyler, thank you so much. Best of luck in everything you're doing moving forward. I look forward to seeing what you're going to be doing, if you're doing Dakar next year, and who you're doing it with and what's going on. But the best of luck to you, and thank you so much for spending some time with me, okay?
Yeah, sweet. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Skyler. I appreciate it. Talk to you soon, buddy.
See ya.
Okay.